All right, are we live again? We're live again. I do apologize, everybody. I have been having some lingering issues with my camera. So it's been literally just stopping right in the middle of my podcast. So I have to stop the show, reset it, and try again. So take two, action. Welcome, everyone, to the ARCA Racing Podcast. I apologize for the lingering camera issues. Hopefully we can get everybody we had watching back in. I got to get a new camera. It's a nice one. It's a 2023 camera, so you'd think it would work. Shows you how good modern day technology is. But anyway, guys, we are here to talk about Watkins, Glen. So if you guys remember me in the first portion of the show, you guys know the drill. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 6,000 followers on Twitter. Let's get to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. Super chats are open if you want to support the show. And go check out the Racing Experts. All right, we got that out of the way. Again, I apologize. I don't know why this keeps happening. It's a brand new camera, but you can't help technology. So Watkins Glen, one of my personal favorite road courses. Like I said, my personal favorite road course is Le Mans, France, the big road course that's held the 24 Hours of Le Mans. My personal favorite road course, but in the U.S., Watkins Glen is my personal favorite road course. Just how fast the tunnel turn, just such a fun road course to watch, and looks fun to drive too. And the ARCA series didn't really race there very often. They had their first appearance there in 2001, and then they actually didn't come back all the way until 2021. It actually had been kind of a mainstay on the Busch North Series, then the K&N East Series schedule. I think they came there as late as 2019. I don't believe they came there in 2020 during COVID. And then the ARCA series, obviously, when that series was all merged together, it's not shocking that the ARCA series would then come back to Watkins Glen, which I feel like was a very welcome addition to the ARCA Menard series schedule when it was announced that Watkins Glen would come back starting in 2021. Unfortunately, though, Watkins Glen was also kind of a hazard race for a lot of teams, as it was the ARCA Hell Tour. Now, what was the ARCA Hell Tour? It was when you would have the race on Friday, and then they would have another race on Sunday. Literally 2 races in 3 days for the ARCA Menard series. And that was really, really hard on a lot of these organizations. Most of the time, it would be either Watkins Glen and then Springfield on Sunday. 2 completely different style tracks for the ARCA Menard series. A fast-paced road course and then a 1-mile dirt track. Thankfully, this year they switched it up to Michigan and then Springfield, leaving Watkins Glen as its own date. So I can imagine a lot of the teams coming into this weekend are not as, they're concerned, but they're breathing a little bit easier. They're breathing just a little bit easier than they probably would be if they knew they had a race on Sunday. But nope, they can take their time. They don't have to rush anything. And I think the field size shows it too. The ARCA Menard series, when they returned here in 2021, the field size was amazing for its comeback. 29 cars in 2021. We dropped off a little bit kind of year by year, down to 25 in 2022 and 22 in 2023, but we've picked it right back up for 2024. 29 cars. A very, very good entry list for this race. Obviously, no Cup guys in the field with the Xfinity Series being here. A lot of the Cup guys and some of those guys running that race. Otherwise, you might have seen them in the ARCA race. Because remember, Corey LaJoie, he ran the ARCA race last year, driving the 63 for Jeff Spraker. Unfortunately, we don't have anything like that this year. But we still got, I think, Brandon Jones. He's running this race for some extra experience for the Xfinity race. And I guess you could say he's also running the race for extra experience. Connor Zilic is actually in the Xfinity race as well, driving the number 88 for Dale Jr. So, but 29 cars, 7 cars more than last year's race. That in itself is a win. And the field is a lot more stacked than last year. We'll go over the entry list like we normally do on the show. We'll start off at the very top, go by car and driver, and we'll get to the bottom eventually. So we'll start off with the number 2, of course, our championship leader, Andres Perez de Lara, driving for Rev Racing. A little bit of a special entry coming up next. Alex Quarterly. I believe, isn't he the son of Dale Quarterly?
I believe he's the son of Dale Quarterly, but he is driving the number 3 entry, which I believe is another Quarterly entry, and that'll be a combination effort with Willie Mullins. And then, of course, the number 4 of Dale Quarterly. So you'll have both Alex and Dale in the field. Okay, so he is his son. So we have another father-son deal racing. That's also cool. You don't, like I said, you don't see that too many times in racing. You really don't. It feels like we see it a lot, but you really don't. So anytime you see that, especially on a road course, that's going to be really cool. Just always good to see Dale back. The guy brings really good equipment, and he's still very good racing, even into his 60s. Or good racer into his 60s, sorry. Of course, LeVar Scott in the 6th, another full-time championship contender for Rev. Ed Pompa in the number 10 for Andy Hillenberg. Cody Dennison in number 11 for Andy Hillenberg. Brayton Laster, a guy who has never driven a road course. He'll be making his debut on a road course in the number 12. Chris Wright in the number 15. Marco Andretti in the 17. Of course, Williams watching the 18. Gio Ruggiero returns to the 20 in a rare non-East Series appearance. He had been running the road courses in the West Division, and I can understand, he has never really run road courses before, and they're just trying to get him some experience, so it's understandable. But it is shocking when you consider that Brent Cruz, who's also a beast on road courses, Brent Cruz is not in this field this year. And he led laps at Mid-Ohio this year. He had a great car and could have won that race, and surprisingly is not in this race. I feel like that's kind of a shocking entry out of Venerini not to have Brent Cruz in the field. Of course, Amber Balkin in the 22, the Sigma Performance team. Joe Ferre, the 23 team, they are running this race with Connor Mosek, another heavy hitter road course, the guy who, some might say should have won the race at Mid-Ohio, but unfortunately a late race penalty took the win away from him. 25, of course, of Tony Breidinger. The 27 of Tim Richmond. Always great to see Tim back. Of course, Connor Zilich, the current East Series championship points leader and road ringer specialist. He won his class events at Sebring and Daytona. So there's you don't need me to lift off his statistics. Ryan Jamel in the 29. Now, this is a really interesting entry. This is the return. Even if it's just for a one-off, this is the return of Nemco Motorsports, or Nemco Motorsports, however you want to pronounce it, and Joe Nemechek. Ryan Jamel races for Joe Nemechek in the historic sports car vintage class, now known as NASCAR Classic. It is a vintage series of legit old NASCAR race cars, from Cup to Xfinity to trucks to even ARCA. And that's where Ryan Jamel has raced in that series for Joe Nemechek. I think he actually even works at Joe's race shop, helping build cars for other people while racing one of Joe's. So this guy knows what he's doing. Very accomplished road racer. He's won championships in the vintage racing classes. This guy is no slouch. This guy is no joke. And we know what Joe Nemechek brings to the table. He's a lot of knowledge. He knows how to build a car. So definitely would not count this team out. And it'll be Ryan's very first start. And, of course, they'll be in the number 29. It does suck that they couldn't run 8. That was taken by Sean Corr. Although I wonder why they didn't run number 87. Unless sorry, I got a phone call there. Oh, that's right. Chuck Buchanan probably owns 87. Crap, I forgot about that. That's probably why they couldn't run 8 or 87, because unfortunately those numbers are taken. But it would have been cool to see that famous Nemco 87 one more time. Moving on here, the number 30 team, which originally was supposed to be announced as Noah Gragson. I could have swore we saw something where Noah Gragson was supposed to run the number 30 entry, but Dylan Lupton is listed in the number 30 instead. But hey, great to see Dylan Lupton. It feels like this guy just pops up out of nowhere. At the most random of times. But hey, good to see Dylan back. Rob Pelosi, he was supposed to drive the 31 at Mid-Ohio. Unfortunately, they broke, I think, 2 clutches. So the 31 never even really made a lap in the race. 32 of Christian Rose. Brandon Jones, as we've mentioned before, he's in the 42 for Bruce Cook's team. So 2 cars for the Bruce Cook team. Thomas Annunziata in the 44 for the Jeff McClure operation. Of course, good old Brad Smith in the 48. Jake Finch in the 55. Christopher Worth, who actually competed in this race in 2022, he returns after a couple year absence. Andy Jankowiak in the 73, Michael Maples in the 99, Alex Clubb in the 03, and Nate Muller in the 06. So yeah, pretty stacked field, especially when you compare the field to last year. You know, last year's field, like I said, we only had 22 cars. Last year's field, I mean, by lap 5, for instance, by lap 5, we were already down to 18 cars. Because the 06 of Tim Richmond last year blew up in practice. The 03 and the 48 and the 66 were starting parks. So, yeah, like I said, we're already off to a better start than last year. Versus with 18 cars running the whole race last year or attempting the whole race last year. And this year's race, in terms of starting parks, probably the 06, 48 for sure, maybe the 03 because Alex was kind of tight on funding for this race after the Springfield crash. But other than that, I think that's it. Maybe the 12 of Brayton Laster. I don't know if Brayton's running the whole distance or not. I know he's running one of Andy's older cars. He's running Rusty, which if you guys don't know, Rusty is one of the oldest cars in the Andy Hillenberg fleet. That's why they call him Rusty. It's a reliable car, but it's one of the oldest. And so Brayton might be up there. So it's what, 3 or 4 starting parks? That's pretty good when you consider that we have more full race entries in this race than we had cars show up last year. Like I said, that in itself is a win. But yeah, compared to this race last year, I'm not even sure if we'll have as much chaos as we did last year. Connor Zilich, I'll be honest, I had no idea who this kid was last year. You know, he just popped up on the entry list. I'm like, oh, Connor Zilich. I don't know who this kid is. And then he showed like, man, this kid's fast in practice. This kid is fast in qualifying. This kid takes the lead in the ARCA race, and literally the sway bar breaks off the car. And you would think, oh, they're going to catch him. No, he pulls an even bigger lead with a broken sway bar. Arguably one of the most impressive feats of driving I've ever seen. How Connor, lap after lap, that car is sparking like crazy. And this kid is just going full throttle. He doesn't give a crap. It was so awesome to see. I'm not sure if we'll see that this year. I'm sure they're going to make sure the sway bar doesn't break. But last year's was literally one of the most badass feats of driving. It's a crying shame that, unfortunately, he got the old bump and run on the last corner, and Jesse Love stole the win away. But a star-making performance last year for Connor Zilich, absolutely. And can he finally get the win this year? I am sure a lot of people will probably be picking him to win tomorrow for sure. But I feel like it's way more open compared to last year. You look at the potential winners in the field. I definitely feel like this is one of the more unpredictable ARCA races, especially outside of the plate tracks, which unfortunately both of the plate races this year had predictable winners. But I just feel like this is one of the more unpredictable ARCA races. Like, look at the list of winners that we could potentially have. Andy Jankowiak, Thomas Annunziata, Brandon Jones, Ryan Jamel, Connor Zilich, Connor Mosak, William Sawalich, Marco Andretti, and I'll even lump in Chris Wright because he is good on road courses more than he's good on ovals. And maybe you could throw in Dale Quarterly as an ultimate underdog. So I feel like you got such more wave of potential winners compared to last year. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park run for Connor Zilich like many people are predicting. Like I said, you got the unpredictability of Ryan Jamel in his first start, but yet with loads of experience in vintage racing and racing at Watkins Glen. It's not like this guy, it's his first appearance at Watkins Glen. This guy's raced there for many years in the vintage series. You got Chris Wright, like I said, he's actually decent on road courses. Thomas Annunziata, he is a beast on road courses. That is no joke. He almost won Mid-Ohio this year. You got Brandon Jones, who performed greatly at Portland this year, nearly won that race in the West Series. You have Connor Mosak, who, we talked about. Some people say he should have won the Mid-Ohio race, but unfortunately a penalty took him out of that.
And of course, that was in the 28 car. This is a different car, but the Joe Ferre team won Sonoma in the West Series. So they are a proven winning road course team. I truly feel like we go into tomorrow's race unpredictable. I don't know how personally you guys feel about it. Sorry, nasal problems. But I don't know how you guys feel about it. I just feel like we are going into one of the more unpredictable and hopefully unpredictable ARCA races of the season, because I'm not going to lie. A lot of people talk about how the 18 and 20 car kind of stunk up the show last year. Well, it hasn't necessarily been the 18 and 20 car this year, but rather the 18 and 28 car. I believe they have won the last 12 races? The last 12 races in the main division have been won by the 18 or the 28. So, yeah, it's definitely been a two-horse race most of the season. But, these road courses are where it can get a lot different and can get a lot more mixed up. So, we'll see. William Sawalich will tell you he's not the best on road courses. I think, his equipment helps him a lot. He'll tell you the first thing I've asked him to in the garage a couple of times. He's not the most fondest of road courses or dirt tracks, despite leading almost every lap and winning Springfield earlier. So, but yeah, so I think he'll be tough to beat. Connor Zilch will be obviously tough to beat. Brandon Jones will be tough to beat. And I like the fact that we're going into an ARCA race, and I can't tell you guys the winner because unfortunately this year that's kind of been the case. Many times I've come on these preview shows and just flat out say, well, it's probably going to be this guy or this guy, more than likely this guy. This time, guys, I can't tell you who's going to win this race. I don't think even you guys can tell yourselves who's going to win this race. It is truly probably one of the most unpredictable races of the season, and I'm happy about that. We need more of that, and unfortunately, sorry there. Unfortunately, we just don't get that a lot in this series, which is fine. It happens. But in terms of the point standings coming into this race, like I said, it's pretty much a walk-away championship win for Andres Perez de Lara. A 49-point lead with 4 races to go. You could say LeVar Scott, it's kind of a 2-horse race for second. Chris Wright is 18 points behind LeVar Scott. So you could say the battle for second place in the championship is still pretty hotly contested. Christian Rose is far back in 4th. It's actually a pretty hot battle for 4th place in the championship right now, too, as Christian Rose and Tony Breidinger are only separated by 5 points. So the battles for 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th are actually still up for grabs as well. And I'm not sure. Is it the top 5? I know the top 5 in the East and West go to the banquet, but is it the top 10 in the main division that go to the banquet, or the top 5 that go to the banquet? So who knows? They'll definitely be fighting hard to stay in that top 5, that's for sure. And the higher you finish in point standings, it's a bigger flex. Like I said, even if you didn't win the championship, it's still better to finish 2nd in the championship than 3rd, So there's still a lot of fight there. Cody Dennison is down in 7th. Michael Maples 8th. Alice Clubb 9th. Greg Van Alst is still in the top 10 in points, mainly because he ran 13 races. William Sawalich is actually behind him in 11th and Brad Smith in 12th. So unfortunately, it looks like Brad Smith's top 10 point streak probably will come to an end. I know. I can hear the disappointment, but, Brad, unfortunately, has had a rough year. It really has been a rough year for Brad. But we're confident coming back in 2025. This is what Brad told me. We will be back next year. The Owners' Championship, you talk about a walk away for the Drivers' Championship. It's even more of a walk away for the Owners' Championship right now. With 4 races to go, the Joe Gibbs 18 car has a whopping 61-point lead over the Billy Venturini 20 car. 61 points. That is a huge gap. And you ask yourself, well, where's the 28 car? They've won a lot of races this year. Well, the 28 car of Pinnacle have only ran 11 races. They've missed 5 races this season. So while it feels like they've been here every week, they've actually missed some races. And unfortunately, that shows in the Owners' Championship as they are down in 18th. So, but I do believe they will obviously be running this race. They are running Bristol with Connor Zilch, and they are running Kansas with Connor Zilch. They will not be at Toledo. So they will gain a couple more. They will gain a couple more owner points and probably finish around 18th, 19th in the Owners' Championship, which should give them a decent spot for Daytona next year because, as you guys remember, they did miss the show this year with SVG. And I'm not sure if Connor will have to run the ARCA race next year. I don't think he will have to run it. But whoever will be in the 28 next year at the ARCA race at Daytona, they'll be sure to have provisionals for that said driver to use. So that's kind of your championship battles. Not the most exciting championship battles, that's for sure. They're pretty much over. I mean, the 18 car has wrapped up the Owners' Championship, no doubt. And Andres Perez de Lara, without a doubt, has sealed up the Drivers' Championship. The entry blank for this race, obviously, like I said, it's like beating a dead horse with the payouts. $10,000 for first, with all contingency awards, $14,600 for first, $9,075 for second, and $58.50 for third. Last place pays $14.50. This race will be live on FS1 tomorrow. Like I said, literally tomorrow, at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you're unfortunately work late tomorrow, hope you have the race DVR'd or catch it later because it's not going to be a very long race. It's only 100 miles. The race usually goes by pretty quickly. Halfway break, like lap 20 or lap 21. One halfway break for the teams to change tires. Of course, 1 day show, not a 2 day show. I believe they're actually parking haulers right behind pit road, so that might be a change for this year. Let's see here. Anything else in the entry blank? No, nothing unusual in the entry blank other than the usual stuff. But yeah, nothing unusual other than the entry blank other than the usual stuff you see at Watkins Glen. Like I said, unfortunately, no rain. Doesn't appear that there's going to be any rain in the forecast. So if you guys remember, we had a one-lap show on rain last year to end the race. That was something. But I don't think we're going to be seeing rain next year. Tomorrow, I don't think we're going to be seeing rain. I think it's going to be a straightforward race. I'm seeing on the chat, so you say it's guaranteed to be a Connor Zilic victory, but I'm telling you, man, I don't know. I think, Sawalich has really stepped it up on the road courses. Brandon Jones is in the field. He was not in last year's race, so that's a different factor. Thomas Annunziata, a lot of heavy hitters in this race, man, compared to last year. So I would not give it to Connor just yet, guys. I really wouldn't. I think practice and qualifying will tell the story and how, these teams prepare for, usually sometimes these ARCA races at Watkins Glen go one of two ways. Either they're crash-filled chaos of teams breaking or crashing, or they just go straight 20 laps to the break and then another 20 laps to the finish. That's how it kind of goes sometimes at Watkins Glen. It either goes that way or the other way. So we'll see tomorrow how it goes. But yeah, wow, guys, we're only been here for 23 minutes. Some like I said, I didn't think tonight's show was going to go very long. We're literally just previewing. We are literally just previewing tonight's podcast or tomorrow night's race at Watkins Glen. We're not reviewing anything. Not much in the ARCA news, really. We don't have a 2025 schedule yet. We're probably not getting that for a couple more months. But yeah, like I said, guys, probably if not my shortest podcast for the year. But hey, that makes it easier for you guys to watch because you guys only have to listen to me for 23 minutes. But anyway, guys, sorry if this podcast feels last minute. I was going to do it on Tuesday, but obviously the debate got in the way. And then I didn't want to do it yesterday. It was 9/11. Kind of didn't really want to do a show on 9/11, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to do it tonight instead. And didn't really have a lot of notes piled up because we were just previewing a race. And you can just I went through the preview notes pretty quickly here. So yeah. But anyway, I forgot to give a pick. Oh, God, I forgot to give a pick before we get out of here. My pick for tomorrow's race. Oh, God. My main pick for tomorrow's race, I am going with, drumroll, Connor Zilic. I know. Colby, you just said there were many heavy hitters. I know, but I want to be right. So I'm just going to go with the easy answer, Connor Zilic. But my underdog pick for the race, I'm going with Thomas Annunziata for the win for the underdog pick. So, yes, you could say my main series pick is a little bit cliche. Fine, you can say that. But in terms of my underdog pick, I'm going with someone different with Thomas Annunziata. Anyway, guys, I wish tonight's podcast could have been longer, but I thank you all for tuning in anyway. We'll see you on Tuesday for the review show. That will be a Tuesday show, I promise you. We'll see you Tuesday live at 7 p.m. for that podcast then. Till then, take care, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the racing at Watkins Glen. And like I said, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, salute, and take care. So long, guys.